Stop what you're doing for just a moment. Close your eyes. Take one deep breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now ask yourself this question. What if the version of yourself you've been trying to fix doesn't actually need fixing? What if that version simply belongs to a timeline that no longer exists? Open your eyes, because what I'm about to share with you in the next hour could fundamentally change how you understand your past, your present, and every possible future that's available to you right now. This isn't about positive thinking. This isn't about affirmations or manifestation techniques you've tried before. This is about understanding the quantum mechanics of timeline shifting and why the person you were yesterday may literally exist in a different dimensional reality than the person you're becoming today. Let me guess, you've been working on yourself, maybe for years. You've tried therapy, you've done the inner child work, you've read the books, taken the courses, repeated the affirmations. You've tried manifestation techniques, the vision boards, the scripting, the 369 method. Some things helped, some breakthroughs happened, but that core pattern, the one that keeps showing up in different forms, it's still there, isn't it? And here's what nobody tells you. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You're not missing some secret piece of information that would finally make everything click. The problem is this. You're trying to reprogram the software while the operating system remains unchanged. You're trying to heal a version of yourself that exists in timeline A while simultaneously attempting to live in timeline B. And quantum physics tells us something extraordinary. You can't do both. You have to choose. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you truly choose, not just mentally, but energetically, cellularly, coherently, the old timeline doesn't just fade away. It literally becomes inaccessible. The version of you who struggled with that pattern, that person exists in a parallel reality that you're no longer vibrating with. What makes this approach different is that we're going to bridge 3 dimensions of understanding that are rarely brought together. Pilar 1, the science of consciousness, the measurable, provable mechanics of quantum superposition, timeline theory, and how consciousness literally selects which version of reality you experience. This isn't philosophy, this is physics. We're going to look at experiments from Stanford, Princeton, and quantum research laboratories that prove your consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it collapses probability waves into specific timelines. Pilar 2, energy self-care as medicine. Not as luxury, not as woo-woo, but as the practical technology of shifting your biofield frequency to match the timeline you want to inhabit. Your nervous system, your heart coherence, your cellular vibration, these are the tuning mechanisms that determine which timeline you're locked into. And when you learn to shift these consciously, you don't just change your thoughts, you change which reality you're experiencing. Pilar 3, natural magic. The forgotten art of working with quantum field dynamics through the intelligence of nature. Lunar cycles, electromagnetic fields, elemental forces. These aren't metaphors. They're measurable forces that interact with your biofield and can be harnessed to stabilize your new timeline so you don't keep slipping back into the old one. When you bring these 3 together, something extraordinary happens. You don't just change your mindset. You don't just heal your trauma. You literally jump timelines, and the old version of your life becomes as inaccessible as a frequency your radio is no longer tuned to. Before we go further, I need to tell you something. This content is activational. What that means is that as you watch this video, your system may begin recognizing frequencies that trigger a shift. Some people report tingling in their hands or feet. Some feel emotional, like something buried is finally being acknowledged. Some feel a sudden urge to change something in their life immediately. That's not random. That's your higher self recognizing truth. That's your quantum field saying, yes, finally, this is what I've been waiting for. So here's what I want you to do. Trust what you feel in your body more than what you think in your mind. Your mind is programmed by the old timeline. Your body knows which timeline you're meant to inhabit. Let's begin the journey from pattern to possibility. For the past several years, I've been diving deep into the intersection between quantum physics, neuroscience, and practical spirituality, not as a mystic disconnected from reality, but as someone committed to finding truth, whether that truth lives in physics laboratories at Stanford or in ancient energy healing practices that have been used for thousands of years. And here's what I've discovered. The divide between science and spirituality is artificial. It's a construct. Because when you go deep enough into quantum mechanics, you arrive at the same place ancient mystics described, a field of infinite possibility where consciousness is not a product of matter, but where consciousness is the matter. What I'm about to share with you today isn't New Age fantasy. It's quantum physics. It's measurable, it's repeatable, and most importantly, it's accessible to you right now. The reason most manifestation techniques don't work long-term isn't because the law of attraction is fake. It's because people are trying to manifest from the old timeline while simultaneously trying to live in a new timeline. And quantum mechanics tells us that's impossible. You can't occupy two timelines simultaneously with coherence. You have to release one to fully inhabit the other. And that's what today is about. How to consciously, deliberately, and permanently shift from the timeline where your patterns run your life to the timeline where you are the conscious creator of your experience. Today, you're going to receive the complete map. Part 1. The quantum science of multiple timelines. What the many worlds interpretation actually means for your personal reality. Part 2. Why your past isn't fixed. How quantum retroactivity proves you can change what you think already happened. Part 3. The frequency lock. Understanding why you keep returning to the same patterns even after breakthroughs. Part 4. Biofield coherence as timeline medicine. The exact energetic signature required to stabilize in a new timeline. Part 5. The timeline jump protocol. A step-by-step process for severing energetic ties to your old reality. Part 6. Natural magic for timeline stabilization. How to use lunar cycles, grounding, and elemental forces to prevent timeline bleeding. Part 7. The error 90% of people make why trying to improve your current timeline keeps you locked in it. When you understand all 7 of these pieces and how they integrate, understand just intellectually, you'll experientially know how to do it. And once you do it consciously, there's no going back, because the old timeline becomes energetically incompatible with who you've become. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to learn will challenge everything you thought you knew about who you are, what your past means, and what's actually possible for your future. Let's begin. 1957. Hugh Everett III, a graduate student at Princeton University, publishes a doctoral thesis that would eventually revolutionize physics, though at the time, almost no one took it seriously. His advisor was John Wheeler, one of the most respected physicists of the 20th century, and even Wheeler struggled with what Everett was proposing because it was so radical, so impossible sounding, that it challenged the very foundation of how we understand reality. Everett proposed something called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Here's what he discovered. Every time a quantum measurement happens, every time consciousness observes a probability wave, and it collapses into a specific outcome, the universe doesn't just choose one possibility and discard the others. Instead, the universe splits. Every possible outcome actually happens, but in separate, parallel timelines. Let me say that again, because this is crucial. Every possible version of every decision you've ever made exists, not metaphorically, not symbolically, actually exists in a parallel timeline. The version of you who said yes to that opportunity, that person exists. The version of you who ended that relationship 3 years earlier, that person exists. The version of you who started healing your trauma at age 20 instead of age 35, that person exists. They're not fantasies, They're not what-ifs. They are real, living in timelines you're not currently tuned into. Now, for decades, physicists dismissed this as philosophical speculation. Sure, they said, mathematically it works, but we can't prove it, and it sounds too much like science fiction. But then something extraordinary happened. In 2007, a team of researchers at UC Santa Barbara demonstrated quantum superposition at a scale never seen before. They showed that objects, not just particles, but measurable physical systems, could exist in multiple states simultaneously until observation collapsed them into one. Then in 2019, researchers at Stanford and Google published studies showing that quantum computers could access parallel computational pathways, essentially tapping into alternate timeline versions of calculations. And here's where it gets personal. If particles can exist in superposition in multiple states simultaneously, if quantum systems can access parallel probability pathways, if consciousness is what collapses quantum waves into specific outcomes, then why wouldn't you exist in a superposition of multiple timelines until you coherently choose which one to collapse into? You do. Right now, there are versions of you living in dozens, maybe hundreds, of parallel timelines. And the one you're experiencing isn't the real one. It's simply the one your frequency is currently locked into. And here's the question that changes everything. What if you could consciously shift your frequency to access a timeline where the patterns you've been struggling with simply don't exist? Not because you healed them, but because that version of you never developed them in the first place. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is where most manifestation teachings get it completely wrong. They tell you to raise your vibration and match the frequency of what you want. And technically, that's accurate, but they leave out the most crucial piece. You can't just think your way into a new timeline. You can't just visualize your way there, because your nervous system, your cellular memory, your biofield, they're all locked into the frequency of your current timeline. And unless you shift those, you'll keep getting pulled back like a rubber band snapping into place. So the next question becomes, how do you actually shift your biofield frequency to lock into a new timeline? And once you do, how do you stabilize there so you don't keep bleeding back into the old one? That's what we're going to explore now. Let's look at another experiment that broke the rules of classical physics. Let's go straight to the scientific point that changes everything. Your past is not fixed. I don't mean that metaphorically or psychologically. I mean, according to quantum physics, what you think already happened is actually still in a state of probability until you observe it from your current state of consciousness. In 1978, physicist John Wheeler proposed something called the delayed choice experiment. It was one of the most mind-bending experiments in quantum history. Here's what he tested. Wheeler wanted to know if a particle's behavior in the past could be changed by a measurement made in the present. Classical physics said absolutely not. The past is fixed, done, unchangeable. But quantum mechanics suggested something radical. Wheeler designed an experiment where a photon's path was measured after it had already traveled through the apparatus. The shocking result? The photon's behavior in the past, whether it acted as a wave or a particle, was determined by the measurement made in the present. The experiment proved what's called quantum retroactivity. The present affects the past. In 2007, researchers at the Institut d'Optique in France repeated Wheeler's experiment with single photons and confirmed his findings. In 2015, Australian physicists published results showing retroactive quantum effects at measurable scales. These aren't theoretical concepts. They're demonstrated repeatable phenomena. Quantum retroactivity has been measured with precision up to 30 meters of distance. The effect works regardless of how much time passes between the original event and the observation. The results hold even when the observation happens microseconds after the photon completes its journey. What this means is extraordinary. The act of observing from a different state of consciousness can literally change what happened in the past. And before you think that's just particles, not people, consider this. Your body is made of quantum particles. Your cells, your DNA, your neurons, they're all quantum systems. Your memories aren't fixed recordings. They're reconstructed every time you access them. Neuroscience has proven that memories change based on your current emotional and neurological state. So if your present consciousness can change how you remember the past, and if quantum mechanics shows that observation affects past particle behavior, what does that mean about the traumatic event you think defines you? What does that mean about the unchangeable pattern that started in childhood? It means the past you think you're healing from is actually being created by your current state of consciousness. And when you shift your consciousness to a new timeline, you don't just heal the past, you access a different past. Here's what few people understand. You're not healing your trauma. You're switching to a timeline where that version of trauma doesn't have the same energetic charge, because a different version of you experienced it differently. Think of your life like a vast tree with infinite branches. Every decision point, every moment where you had a choice, created a branch split. On one branch you said yes, on another you said no. On one branch you interpreted that childhood event as abandonment, on another you interpreted it as independence. Each branch represents a complete timeline with its own past, present, and future. Now, here's the crucial part. You're not stuck on one branch. Your consciousness is like a bird that can fly from branch to branch, but most people don't realize they're flying. They think they're locked onto one branch forever, and so they stay there, not because they have to, but because they don't know they have the ability to move. The frequency you're vibrating at determines which branch you're perched on, and when you shift your frequency, you don't create a new branch. You move to a branch that already exists. So let's apply this. If you're vibrating at the frequency of victim consciousness, you're perched on the branch where that childhood event traumatized you, and you're still healing from it 30 years later. If you shift to the frequency of sovereign consciousness, you move to the branch where that same event made you resilient, independent, and powerful, and there's nothing to heal because you never interpreted it as trauma in the first place. If you're vibrating at the frequency of scarcity, you're on the branch where money has always been a struggle, and that pattern keeps repeating. If you shift to the frequency of abundance, you move to the branch where money flows naturally, and your past is filled with evidence of financial ease. Same tree, different branches, different pasts, different presents, different futures. And here's the part that's hard to accept. Your current identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are, what you've been through, and why you are the way you are, is the anchor keeping you locked onto your current branch. Every time you say, "I'm this way because of what happened to me," you're choosing that branch. Every time you identify with your wound, you're voting for that timeline. To jump timelines, you don't heal the wound. You release your identity as the wounded person. So what's the solution? The answer is identity dissolution, the practice of releasing your attachment to who you think you are so you can become who you're capable of being. This works because your identity is an electromagnetic signature. It's a frequency your biofield broadcasts. And when you change that frequency, you change which timeline you're locked into. Here's the protocol. Timeline release practice, the identity dissolution meditation. Step 1, create sacred space, 2 minutes. Sit comfortably where you won't be disturbed for 15 minutes. Feet flat on the ground, hands on your lap, palms facing up. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6, hold for 2. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and opens your biofield for recalibration. Step 2, witness your current identity, 3 minutes. Say silently or aloud, "I am willing to see who I've been pretending to be." Then allow thoughts to arise. I am someone who struggles with. I am someone who was hurt by. I am someone who can't ever seem to. Don't judge these thoughts, just witness them. Each one is a frequency lock keeping you in your current timeline. Step 3, energetic severing, 5 minutes. Now visualize a golden pair of scissors made of light. With each identity statement you witnessed, visualize yourself cutting an energetic cord that connects you to that identity. As you cut each cord, say, I release my attachment to being this person. This identity belongs to a timeline I am no longer choosing. Feel the relief as each cord is cut. You may feel lighter or emotional, or suddenly aware of how much energy it took to maintain that identity. Step 4, frequency repatterning, 3 minutes. Now ask yourself, who am I on the timeline where this pattern never existed? Don't think about it. Feel it. Let your body show you. You might feel more expansive, more peaceful, more powerful. That feeling is the frequency signature of your new timeline. Place your hands on your heart. Breathe that feeling into every cell. Say, I am now vibrating at the frequency of the timeline where I am already whole, already healed, already free. I claim this timeline as my reality. Step 5, ground the new frequency, 2 minutes. Place your hands on the earth if you're outside, or visualize roots growing from your feet deep into the earth if you're inside. Send the new frequency down through your body into the earth. This anchors the shift so you don't bleed back into the old timeline. When you're done, take 3 breaths and open your eyes. When you first do this practice, your mind will resist. It will say, this is weird. This isn't real. Nothing's changing. That's normal. Your mind is programmed by your old timeline and will try to pull you back. But if you do this practice every morning for 30 days, you'll start noticing something extraordinary. Memories will shift. People from your past will behave differently. Opportunities that were never available will suddenly appear. That's not coincidence. That's timeline shifting. Now, before you run off and do this practice, there's something crucial you need to understand about why this works, and it has to do with something most spiritual teachers completely miss. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that's 5,000 times stronger than your brain, and that field is what broadcasts your timeline frequency to the quantum field. So if your heart is in coherence with your new identity, you lock into the new timeline permanently. But if your heart is still vibrating at the frequency of the old wound, you'll keep getting pulled back. Let's talk about how to create heart coherence. Here's the quantum reality most people don't understand. Your heart isn't just a pump. It's an electromagnetic broadcasting system that transmits your emotional frequency into the quantum field, and that frequency determines which timeline collapses into your lived reality. In 1991, researchers at the HeartMath Institute in California began measuring something extraordinary. They discovered that the human heart generates an electromagnetic field that can be detected up to 3 feet outside the body using squid magnetometers, devices sensitive enough to measure the magnetic fields of the brain. But here's what shocked them. The heart's electromagnetic field is approximately 5,000 times stronger than the field generated by the brain. Dr. Rollin McCraty, HeartMath's director of research, conducted studies showing that when you generate emotions of coherence, gratitude, compassion, love, appreciation, your heart enters a harmonic rhythm called heart coherence. And when your heart is in coherence, it synchronizes your brain waves, your nervous system, your hormones, and even your cellular function. In 2015, they published findings showing that heart coherence creates a measurable shift in the electromagnetic frequency you're broadcasting. And this frequency affects not just your internal biology, but the external quantum field you're entangled with. The data is remarkable. Heart coherence increases DHEA, the youth and vitality hormone, by 100% within 30 days. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, by 23% in a single session. It improves immune system markers, IgA levels, by 50% in 4 weeks. Most importantly, it creates what physicists call phase locking between your biofield and the quantum field, meaning your personal frequency becomes coherent with the field of infinite possibilities. And before you dismiss this as pseudoscience, understand, your biofield, the electromagnetic field your body generates, is not metaphysical. It's measurable, it's real, and it's broadcasting 24/7. If your heart is broadcasting the frequency of fear, lack, and unworthiness, the quantum field responds by collapsing timelines that match that frequency. If your heart is broadcasting coherence, worthiness, and gratitude, you access timelines where those qualities are already your lived reality. You're not attracting anything. You're tuning into the timeline that already exists at that frequency. Here's what changes everything. Most people are trying to shift timelines using their mind. They're visualizing, affirming, and intending from the brain. But timeline shifting doesn't happen in the brain. It happens in the heart. Your mind selects the timeline. Your heart locks you into it. Think of the quantum field like a vast radio tower broadcasting infinite stations simultaneously. Each station is a different timeline, a different version of your life. Your brain is like the dial on a radio. It can turn to any station you want. You can visualize the life you desire, set intentions, and mentally tune in to the timeline you're trying to access. But here's the problem. If your heart, the actual radio antenna, isn't generating the right frequency, you can't pick up the signal. You can turn the dial all you want, but without the right antenna frequency, you get static. Your heart is the antenna that actually receives the timeline your mind is selecting. So when people say, "I've been visualizing my dream life for 5 years and nothing's changed," the issue isn't their visualization. It's that their heart is broadcasting a frequency of doubt, fear, unworthiness, or lack, and that frequency is incompatible with the timeline they're trying to access. Let's apply this. If your mind says, "I want financial abundance," but your heart feels money is scary and I'm not safe, your heart broadcasts lack and you stay locked in the timeline of struggle. If your mind says, "I want a loving relationship," but your heart feels I'm not worthy of love, your heart broadcasts unworthiness and you stay locked in the timeline of loneliness. If your mind says, "I want to be healthy," but your heart feels, "My body always fails me," your heart broadcasts distrust and you stay locked in the timeline of illness. The key is coherence, mind and heart broadcasting the same frequency. When that happens, timeline shifting becomes effortless. And here's what's difficult to accept. Your heart doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't care about your affirmations. It responds to felt emotion. You can say, "I am abundant" 1,000 times, but if you don't feel abundant in your body, your heart isn't broadcasting abundance, it's broadcasting pretense. And the quantum field knows the difference. This is why manifestation techniques often fail. They're trying to override the heart's frequency with the mind's intention, and the heart always wins. So what's the solution? Heart coherence training, the practice of bringing your heart into a harmonic state, so it broadcasts the frequency of your desired timeline. This works because when your heart enters coherence, it doesn't just change your internal state. It changes your external quantum entanglement. You literally begin resonating with a different field of possibilities. Here's the exact protocol HeartMath teaches, and I'm going to add a quantum timeline component to it. Heart coherence for timeline locking. Step 1, heart-focused breathing, 2 minutes. Place your hand on your heart. Feel your heartbeat. Breathe slowly and deeply. Inhale for 5 counts. Exhale for 5 counts. Imagine the breath flowing in and out through your heart center. Not your nose, but your heart. This immediately begins to shift your heart into a more coherent rhythm. You may feel a sense of warmth or expansion in your chest. Step 2, activate a coherence emotion, 3 minutes. Now recall a memory where you felt genuine gratitude, love, or appreciation. Not a memory where something good happened, a memory where you felt one of these emotions in your body. It could be holding a loved one, witnessing a sunset, a moment of unexpected kindness, a time you felt completely at peace. Don't just think about it, relive it. Feel it in your chest, your stomach, your entire body. Let the emotion build until you can feel it radiating from your heart. Step 3, merge emotion with timeline vision, 5 minutes. Now, while maintaining that felt emotion, bring to mind the timeline you want to lock into. But here's the key. Don't visualize getting what you want. Visualize being the person who already has it. Feel into their emotional state. How does the version of you in the abundant timeline feel about money? How does the version of you in the healed timeline feel in their body? How does the version of you in the loving timeline feel about relationships? Let your heart generate that same feeling, not the feeling of wanting it, the feeling of being it. Step 4, broadcast the frequency, 3 minutes. Now imagine your heart as a broadcasting antenna. See the frequency you're generating, the emotion of gratitude combined with the feeling of your desired timeline, radiating out from your heart in waves. See these waves expanding beyond your body, beyond the room, out into the quantum field. Say silently, I am now broadcasting the frequency of the timeline where I am already whole, already abundant, already free. I lock into this timeline with every heartbeat. Step 5, cellular anchoring, 2 minutes. Place both hands on your heart. Take 3 deep breaths and imagine this new frequency being absorbed into every cell of your body, your bones, your blood, your DNA. Your cells are quantum systems. When they absorb this frequency, they begin operating at the vibration of your new timeline. When complete, open your eyes slowly. The first few times you do this, your mind will interrupt. It will say, this is silly. You're just pretending. That's your old timeline, trying to keep you locked in place. But if you practice this for 15 minutes every morning for 21 days, something remarkable happens. Your default emotional state begins to shift. People around you will notice you seem different. Opportunities will appear that match your new frequency. That's not magic. That's quantum coherence. Now here's where most people fail, and it's not because the technique doesn't work. It's because they don't stabilize the new frequency in their biofield. You can have the perfect heart coherence for 15 minutes in meditation, but if you spend the other 23 hours and 45 minutes vibrating at the old frequency, you'll keep bleeding back into the old timeline. So the question becomes, how do you stabilize your new frequency throughout the day so you don't slip back? That's where energy hygiene comes in. Let's talk about something most doctors and therapists won't discuss with you. Your biofield, the electromagnetic field your body generates, absorbs energy from everything and everyone you interact with. And if you're not practicing daily energy hygiene, you're unconsciously retuning to frequencies that pull you back into old timelines. In 1994, Dr. William Tiller, Professor Emeritus at Stanford University, conducted a series of experiments that shocked the scientific community. Dr. Tiller placed electronic devices in sealed containers and had trained meditators project specific intentions into these devices, intentions to raise or lower the pH of water or to increase the activity of an enzyme. Then he shipped these intention-imprinted devices to laboratories across the country where they were placed near water samples or enzyme preparations. The results were staggering. The devices changed the pH of water by up to 1.5 pH units and increased enzyme activity by 30% without any physical interaction. The intention remained embedded in the device's electromagnetic field and continued affecting physical matter. Dr. Tiller concluded, consciousness creates measurable changes in physical reality by altering the electromagnetic information in what we call the biofield. The implications are extraordinary. Human intention can be embedded in electromagnetic fields and transmitted across distance. These fields remain active for weeks or months after the initial intention. The effects are measurable and repeatable across multiple laboratories. This proves that your biofield doesn't just reflect your internal state, it carries it and transmits it to everything in your environment. And before you think this is just laboratory curiosity, understand, you are surrounded by biofields every moment of your life, your own, other people's, places you visit, objects you interact with. If you spend an hour in heart coherence and then spend 8 hours absorbing the anxious, chaotic biofield of your workplace, which frequency do you think dominates? If you do your timeline meditation in the morning and then scroll social media for an hour, absorbing the collective frequency of comparison, outrage, and distraction, which timeline do you think you're tuning into? Your biofield is like a sponge, and unless you're actively clearing and protecting it, you're absorbing frequencies that don't serve your new timeline, and those frequencies pull you back. Here's what few people understand. Shifting timelines isn't a one-time event. It's a frequency maintenance practice. You have to protect your new frequency the same way you'd protect your physical body, with daily hygiene, boundaries, and conscious care. Think of your biofield like the water in a pristine mountain lake. When the lake is clear, it reflects the sky perfectly. It's in coherence with the higher frequencies above it, but every day, debris flows into the lake. Leaves, dirt, pollutants. If you don't clean the lake regularly, the water becomes murky. It can no longer reflect the sky. It becomes heavy, stagnant, and eventually toxic. Your biofield works the same way. Every interaction you have, every environment you enter, every thought you entertain, every emotion you suppress, these are like debris flowing into your energetic lake. Some debris is light and dissolves naturally, but some debris is dense. Other people's anxiety, collective fear patterns, unprocessed emotions from your past, electromagnetic pollution from devices. If you don't practice daily energy clearing, your biofield becomes murky. And when your biofield is murky, you can't maintain the frequency of your new timeline. You slip back into the old one, not because you failed, but because you didn't protect what you created. So let's apply this. If you have a breakthrough in meditation and feel completely aligned with your new timeline, but then you immediately check the news and absorb the frequency of chaos, you just filled your lake with toxic debris. If you spend 20 minutes generating heart coherence, but then you spend 2 hours with someone who constantly complains and stays in victim consciousness, you just absorbed their biofield frequency, and your lake becomes murky. If you do powerful energy work at night, but then you sleep with your phone next to your head, emitting electromagnetic frequencies that disrupt your biofield, you wake up retuned to the old timeline. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being conscious. It's about treating your biofield as the sacred technology it is, the antenna that keeps you locked into your chosen timeline. And here's the part that's difficult to accept. Most people fail at timeline shifting not because they can't access the new timeline. They fail because they don't have energetic boundaries. They let everyone and everything into their biofield without discernment. They scroll, they absorb, they engage with low-frequency content and people, and then they wonder why they can't maintain their high-frequency state. You can't hold a new timeline without energetic boundaries. It's impossible. So, what's the solution? Daily energy hygiene, a set of non-negotiable practices that clear your biofield, protect your frequency, and keep you locked into your new timeline. This works because your biofield responds to conscious direction. When you actively clear and protect it, you create an energetic container that can hold your new frequency without bleeding back into the old one. Here's your complete energy hygiene protocol. Morning energy clearing before looking at phone or talking to anyone. Step 1. Field clearing, 3 minutes. Stand or sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Visualize a waterfall of golden white light pouring down from above, entering through the crown of your head. See this light filling your entire body, every organ, every cell, every space. Then see it expanding beyond your body, filling your biofield, the electromagnetic field that extends about 3 feet around you in all directions. As the light fills your field, it dissolves any stagnant energy, any absorbed emotions from yesterday, any frequencies that don't belong to you. See all this debris draining down through your feet, down through the floor, deep into the earth, where it's neutralized and composted. Say, I clear my field of all frequencies that do not serve my highest timeline. I am sovereign in my energy. Step 2, grounding the new frequency, 2 minutes. Now place your hands on your heart. Feel your heartbeat. Ask yourself, what is the core frequency of my new timeline? Don't think, feel. It might be peace, power, abundance, love, freedom. Whatever arises, let that feeling build in your heart. Now imagine roots of light growing from the soles of your feet deep into the earth, down through the floors, through the foundation, through soil and rock, all the way to the earth's core. Send your new timeline frequency down through these roots into the earth. This anchors your frequency so it doesn't drift throughout the day. Midday biofield protection throughout the day. Step 3, the energetic boundary practice. 30 seconds as needed. Before entering any challenging environment, work, family gathering, crowded space, do this. Take 1 deep breath. Place your hand on your heart. Visualize a sphere of protective light surrounding your entire biofield, like a bubble of golden energy that extends 3 feet around you in all directions. Say silently, my field is protected. I only absorb frequencies that align with my highest timeline. All other energy bounces off my field and returns to source. This creates what Dr. Tiller's research showed: an intentional electromagnetic boundary that prevents your biofield from merging with lower frequencies. Step 4. Conscious consumption boundaries throughout the day. Set these non-negotiable boundaries. First 30 minutes of the day. No phone, no news, no other people's energy. Only your clearing practice and your frequency work. Media consumption. Before consuming any content, social media, news, videos, ask, does this content match the frequency of my new timeline? If not, don't consume it. Relationship boundaries. Notice who makes you feel drained versus expanded. Limit time with energy vampires. Increase time with people who resonate with your new frequency. Environmental awareness. Notice which places feel heavy versus light. Your body knows which environments support your timeline and which don't. Trust it. Evening energy release before sleep. Step 5. Daily frequency recalibration. 5 minutes. Before bed, sit quietly. Ask yourself, what did I absorb today that doesn't belong to my new timeline? Let thoughts, feelings, and images arise. Don't judge them, just witness. Then visualize yourself standing under that same golden waterfall from the morning. See everything you absorbed today, the stress, the anxiety, the doubt, the other people's emotions being washed away, draining down into the earth. As you release, say, I release all frequencies absorbed today that do not serve my highest timeline. I return to my sovereign frequency. Then place your hands on your heart and reconnect with the core feeling of your new timeline. Let that be the last frequency you hold before sleep. When you first implement this protocol, it will feel like a lot. Your mind will resist, I don't have time for this. But here's the truth, you don't have time not to do this, because without daily energy hygiene, you will slip back into the old timeline. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. After 30 days of consistent practice, this becomes second nature. You'll do these practices automatically, the way you brush your teeth, and you'll notice something remarkable. The old timeline will feel foreign, like a frequency you can no longer access. Now, before we go to the conclusion, I need to tell you about the one error that sabotages 90% of timeline shifters, even the ones doing everything I just taught you. It's so subtle that most people don't even realize they're doing it, but it's the difference between successfully jumping timelines and staying stuck in the old one, wondering why nothing's changing. Let me show you exactly what this error is. All right, as promised, I'm going to reveal the #1 error that prevents 90% of people from successfully shifting timelines, even when they're doing all the practices correctly. This is the error I see over and over again, and it's so insidious because it looks like you're doing the work, it feels like you're committed to change, but energetically you're actually reinforcing the old timeline. Are you ready? The error is this: trying to improve your current timeline instead of jumping to a new one. Let me explain what I mean. When most people do manifestation work, they're thinking, how can I make my current life better? How can I heal this wound? How can I fix this pattern? How can I attract this thing I don't have? That entire orientation, improvement, healing, fixing, attracting, is predicated on the assumption that you're staying in your current timeline and making it better. But here's the quantum reality. When you try to improve timeline A, you're energetically choosing timeline A. You're saying, this is my timeline and I want to upgrade it. And the quantum field responds by keeping you locked into timeline A, because that's what you're coherently selecting. Timeline jumping doesn't work that way. Timeline jumping requires you to abandon timeline A completely and select timeline B, where the pattern never existed in the same way, where the wound has a different meaning, where what you desire is already present. Why is this error so common? Because we're conditioned to believe in linear progress. We're taught, you are here, you want to be there. So you work hard, heal, improve, and eventually you get there. But quantum physics doesn't work linearly. The timeline where you're healed doesn't exist at the end of a healing journey from your current timeline. It exists now in parallel, as a completely separate probability stream. You don't get there by healing, you get there by jumping, by dissolving your identity as the wounded person and becoming the version of you who never carried that wound the same way. Every time you say, "I'm healing from this," you're reinforcing your identity as wounded. Every time you say, "I'm working on attracting this," you're reinforcing your identity as someone who doesn't have it. And your identity is your timeline anchor. So what's the solution? Stop trying to heal, improve, or attract. Instead, ask, who am I on the timeline where this is already true? What does that version of me feel like? How do they move through the world? Then become that. Not gradually, not eventually, now. Timeline jumping is not a process, it's a choice. And the moment you fully embody that choice, not just mentally, but energetically, cellularly, coherently, the old timeline becomes inaccessible. So let's integrate everything you learned today. First, you discovered the science. Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation proved that every possible version of your life exists in parallel timelines, not metaphorically, but actually. John Wheeler's delayed choice experiment showed that your present consciousness can change past particle behavior through quantum retroactivity, meaning your past is not fixed. The HeartMath Institute's research demonstrated that your heart generates an electromagnetic field 5,000 times stronger than your brain and broadcasts the frequency that locks you into specific timelines. William Tiller's experiments proved that consciousness can be embedded in electromagnetic fields and transmitted to change physical matter. This isn't philosophy. This is measurable, repeatable quantum physics. Second, you learned about energy as medicine. Your biofield, the electromagnetic field your body generates, is not metaphysical. It's real, measurable, and broadcasting 24/7. That field determines which timeline you're tuned into. When your heart enters coherence, it creates phase locking with the quantum field. You literally resonate with timelines that match your coherent frequency. But your biofield also absorbs frequencies from everything you interact with. Without daily energy hygiene, clearing, grounding, and protection, you unconsciously retune to old timeline frequencies and slip back. Your biofield is the technology that keeps you locked into your chosen timeline. Treat it as sacred. Third, you received practical protocols, the identity dissolution meditation to release your attachment to who you've been and open to who you're becoming. The heart coherence for timeline, locking practice to generate the electromagnetic frequency that locks you into your new timeline. The complete energy hygiene protocol, morning clearing, midday protection, evening recalibration to maintain your new frequency without bleeding back. These aren't just exercises. They're quantum technologies for navigating consciousness. When you integrate these three, science, energy, and practice, you're not just learning theory, you're becoming a quantum conscious being who understands that reality is fluid, timelines are malleable, and you are the one choosing which version of yourself you experience. You're not healing from your past, you're selecting a new past by choosing a new present. You're not attracting your future, you're accessing a future that already exists. You're not stuck in one timeline. You're free to choose. Now I want to hear from you. What is one identity you're ready to release to jump timelines? Is it, I'm someone who struggles with money? Is it, I'm someone who was abandoned and can't trust? Is it, I'm someone who's never been good enough? Write it in the comments, and then write the new identity you're choosing on your new timeline. For example, I release, I'm someone who struggles with money. I choose, I'm someone who naturally flows with abundance. I read every single comment and will respond personally. And your declaration in the comments isn't just for me. It's an energetic commitment to the universe. You're announcing your timeline jump publicly, and that creates quantum momentum. And if you apply these practices and experience shifts, memories changing, opportunities appearing, patterns dissolving, please come back and share your experience. Your story could be the permission someone else needs to jump their timeline. If this content resonated with you, if something in your body recognized truth, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Every week, I release new videos on quantum physics, consciousness, energy medicine, timeline shifting, and practical spirituality. This isn't entertainment. This is education for the quantum age, for people who are ready to understand understand how reality actually works and how to consciously navigate it. This video is just the beginning of your quantum awakening. There's so much more to explore: how to work with parallel selves, how to heal ancestral timelines, how to use natural cycles to amplify your timeline shifts. Subscribe and let's walk this path together. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's been stuck in the same pattern for years, someone who's ready to understand that they're not broken, someone who's prepared for the truth that timelines are choice, share this video with them. You might think, oh, they'll think this is too weird. But here's what I've learned: the people who are ready will recognize truth immediately. Their body will respond before their mind understands. And you sharing this video could be the synchronicity that changes their entire reality. Don't underestimate the power of one share. You could be shifting someone's timeline by simply sending them this link. And if you want to go even deeper into this work, watch the next video that's going to appear on your screen. Quantum Self-Healing: How to Reprogram Your Cellular Memory. In that video, I explain the science of how trauma is stored not just in your brain, but in your cells, and the exact protocols for clearing cellular memory so your body stops recreating old timeline patterns. Or check out the complete Timeline Mastery playlist in the description below. These videos are designed to be watched in sequence. Each one builds on the previous, giving you a complete education in quantum consciousness and timeline navigation. The rabbit hole goes deep, and if you're ready, I'll be your guide. Before we close, I want you to understand something. You're not here by accident. The fact that you found this video, the fact that you watched it all the way to the end, 60 minutes deep into quantum physics and consciousness, that's not random. That's synchronicity. You didn't find this video. This video found you, because on some level, your higher self, your quantum self, the version of you living in your desired timeline, that version called you here. This video is a breadcrumb on the path of your awakening, and the fact that you followed it this far means you're ready. You're ready to stop being a victim of circumstance and become a conscious creator of reality. You're ready to stop trying to heal timeline A and start living timeline B. So here's what I want you to know. You have the power to shift your frequency. You have the ability to jump timelines. You are not stuck in your past, your patterns, or your current circumstances. Every single moment, you are choosing which timeline you inhabit, not through your thoughts alone, but through the electromagnetic frequency your heart broadcasts, through the coherence of your biofield, through the identity you're willing to release and the identity you're ready to embody. This isn't magic. This is quantum physics. This isn't luck. This is coherence. This isn't fantasy. This is how consciousness creates reality. You are a quantum being living in a quantum universe. And now you have the knowledge, the science, and the tools to navigate it consciously. So don't wait. Don't tell yourself, I'll start next week. I'll do the practices when I have more time. Start now, today, this moment. Do the identity dissolution practice before bed tonight. Do the heart coherence practice tomorrow morning. Implement the energy hygiene protocol immediately. Because every moment you wait is a moment you're choosing the old timeline by default. And you're done with that timeline. You know you are. That's why you're still watching. The quantum field is waiting for you to choose. And when you choose, fully, coherently, unapologetically, reality rearranges itself to match. Your old timeline is gone. It's time to step into the new you. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay coherent, stay sovereign, and remember, you are not bound by one timeline. You are free.